In October 2019, a man ran for 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 40 seconds, and the world refused to count it. 41 pacemakers rotated around him like a flock of birds. A car drove ahead, projecting a laser line onto the road. And when Eliud Kipchoge crossed that line in Vienna, the first human ever to run a marathon under 2 hours, the record books stayed blank. It didn't count. And here's the thing that should haunt you. The scientists weren't surprised he did it. A physiologist had predicted it almost 30 years earlier. On paper, with a pencil. I'm Sebastian, and this is the Injury Breakdown. Today we're not ranking the fastest athletes on Earth. We're ranking the strangest. The 5 bodies that bend the rules of what a human engine is supposed to do. Number 5 will make you question how a body can sprint when its lungs are completely empty. Number 2 did something physiologists called nearly impossible. And number 1? Number 1 is the body that shattered a 30-year-old biological ceiling and finally exposed the truth behind the burning pain in your muscles. So stick with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why it hurts to run fast. Let's count down. Let me tell you about the loneliest 6 seconds in sports. In June 2025, Nike built an entire event around one woman and one number. They called it Breaking 4. The goal? Become the first woman in history to run a mile in under 4 minutes. They gave Faith Kipyegon 11 male pacers, a custom speed suit, featherlight spikes, everything science could legally bolt onto a human being. She ran 4 minutes and 6 seconds, the fastest mile any woman has ever run. And she still lost. To a barrier that men cracked back in 1954. Why can over 2,000 men run under 4 minutes, and not one single woman has ever come close? It's not about effort, it's about the engine. Even after you account for body size, a woman's maximum oxygen uptake runs about 10 to 15% lower than a man's. Mostly because of roughly 10% lower hemoglobin. That's the molecule that carries oxygen in your blood. Less hemoglobin, less oxygen with every heartbeat. A lower ceiling. Period. But here's the twist that makes Kipyegon a freak of nature, in the best possible way. Elite women often have running economy, the fuel efficiency of their stride, that's equal to or even better than men's. So she's fighting a lower ceiling with a more efficient engine. And the way she races proves it. When she set her 1,500-meter world record, she ran her final lap in under 59 seconds. She was already at world record pace, and she sped up. Most of us, pushed to our limit, are drowning in fatigue. Kipyegon is recycling lactate so efficiently she finds another gear when she should have nothing left. And here's a detail that sounds like science fiction. In Breaking 4, some of her pacers ran behind her, on purpose, to create a pocket of low-pressure air and reduce the drag pulling at her back. Models suggest that with perfect drafting alone, she could run 3 minutes and 59 seconds and break the barrier without changing her physiology at all. So was she beaten by biology or just by air? Hold that thought. Because our next athlete didn't just chase a barrier, she demolished one and then walked away at the peak of her powers. Beatrice Chebet did something in 2024 and 2025 that the record book wasn't ready for. She became the first woman in history to run 10,000 meters in under 29 minutes, the first under 14 minutes for 5,000 meters on the track, and the first under 14 minutes for 5 kilometers on the road. No woman had ever stood on both of those frontiers at once. So what does an engine like that look like from the inside? A perfect storm of 3 things. A massive maximum oxygen uptake, the raw size of the engine. Exceptional economy, how little fuel it burns. And the ability to hold 80 to 90% of that maximum for nearly half an hour without falling apart. But here's the part the highlight reels never tell you. Chebet didn't grow that engine in a normal place. Like so many of the greatest distance runners alive, She trained at altitude in Kenya's Rift Valley, around 2,200 meters above sea level. Up there, the air is thin and oxygen is scarce. So the body fights back. It builds more red blood cells just to survive. So when she comes down to sea level to race, it's like an engine that learned to run on fumes, suddenly getting premium fuel. Her body adapted to a disadvantage and turned it into the most dangerous endurance weapon on the planet. And here's the human gut punch. In early 2026, at 25 years old, arguably the most dominant distance runner alive, Beatrice Chebet announced she was pregnant, and she'd sit out the entire season. Which raises a question science is only just beginning to answer honestly. Does motherhood end an elite endurance career? Or just pause it? For decades, the assumption was that it ended it. The data tells a more hopeful story. A 2026 review titled "Mothers Going the Distance" concluded that becoming a mother mid-career does not necessarily ruin future success. Many elite runners return to their previous level within a season or two. But, and this matters for a channel about injuries, the same research warns that ramping training back up too fast after birth sharply raises the risk of injury. The bones, the tendons, the pelvic floor. They all need time the stopwatch doesn't care about. So Chebet's greatest race might still be ahead of her. Now let's talk about a man who has to be a great athlete every single day, for 3 straight weeks. There's a word cyclists use for a rider like Jonas Vingegaard. They call him a diesel. He's not the flashiest. What he has is an engine that can hold a brutal, near maximum power output for 30, even 40 minutes, up a mountain. And then get up the next morning and do it again, for 3 weeks. In 2026, he made his debut at the Giro d'Italia, and he simply took it apart. 4 stage wins. He rode into Rome in the leader's pink jersey, with a commanding lead. But I want to show you what that domination actually costs a human body. Because the science here is genuinely disturbing. Researchers took blood from 7 elite cyclists who completed the 2023 Tour de France. They measured 274 different molecules in that blood. And by the end of the race, 43% of them had significantly changed. Here's the counterintuitive part. After a single hard workout, your blood usually shows a spike of stress markers. But over 3 weeks of a Grand Tour, the pattern flips. The body isn't spiking, it's draining. Amino acids? Depleted. Fatty acids? Depleted. These riders weren't getting amped up. They were being slowly emptied out. And it goes deeper. Hormone studies show that both testosterone, the buildup hormone, and cortisol, the classic stress hormone, trend downward as the race grinds on. The body's repair system, and its alarm system, shutting down at the same time. That's not high-octane excitement. That's a body quietly running out of road. So when you watch a Grand Tour, understand what you're really seeing. A diesel like Vingegaard rides most of the race below his limit, saving his fuel, so that when the mountain comes, he still has just enough left to explode. It's the most ruthless energy budgeting in all of sport. Quick gut check before we climb higher. Which sounds harder to you? One perfect explosive effort, or being at 80% of your best for 21 days in a row? Tell me in the comments. Because our number 2 found a way to do both. If you're enjoying this breakdown, by the way, subscribing genuinely helps the channel keep going. For years, sports scientists treated one feat as a kind of sacred impossibility in modern cycling. Win the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France in the same year. The Giro Tour double. The last man to do it was Marco Pantani, back in 1998, and his story later curdled into tragedy and scandal. The modern racing calendar was just too brutal. The team's too strong. The cumulative strain on the body, the hormones, the metabolism, the nervous system, was supposed to make it physically unsustainable. Many scientists flat out called it nearly impossible. In 2024, Tadej Pogačar did it anyway. He won the Giro, then the Tour de France, his third, beating Vingegaard by over 6 minutes. The youngest rider in history to complete the double. But the double isn't even the strangest thing about him. This is, in that same tour, he won 6 of the 21 stages. He won in the high mountains, where you need to be a pure climber. He won the final time trial, where you need to be a power machine, alone against the clock. And he can win uphill sprints, where you need a fast, explosive kick. Here's why that should not be possible. In endurance sport, those profiles usually cancel each other out. The huge aerobic engine that lets you grind up a mountain for an hour normally comes at the cost of the short, violent, anaerobic punch you need for a sprint. Most champions live at one end of that spectrum, or the other. Pogačar lives at both ends, at the same time. A combination so rare that researchers are literally building data models to try to predict how you'd ever find the next Pogačar. The honest answer, biologically, is that you mostly don't. He's an outlier, among the outliers. So we've seen the most efficient woman, the highest aerobic ceiling, the toughest diesel, and the most complete all-rounder in the world. Which means there's only one body left. And number one isn't a single athlete with a famous face. It's the answer to a question that took the human race over a century to settle. Let's go back to that pencil. In 1991, a physiologist named Michael Joyner did something that sounded almost arrogant. He sat down, and he calculated the perfect marathon. He took the best maximum oxygen uptake ever measured, the best lactate threshold, the best running economy, and he combined them into one theoretical flawless runner. The number his model spat out was 1 hour, 57 minutes, and 58 seconds. At the time, the world record was minutes slower. People thought it was a fantasy, a math trick. Bodies, they said, don't work on paper. For 3 decades, humanity chipped away at it. Then, in that uncounted Vienna run, Kipchoge broke 2 hours under laboratory-perfect conditions, proving the body could do it, even if the rulebook wouldn't bless it. And then, in April 2026, at the London Marathon, Sebastian Sawe ran 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 30 seconds. In a real, open, record-eligible race. No laser car, no flock of rotating pacers. The first human ever to officially break 2 hours. Joyner predicted 1:57 on a piece of paper in 1991, and reality just walked into the 1:59s. He was early by a few decades, but he was not wrong. So what does it actually take? Why is the marathon the Mount Everest of physiology? Because unlike everything else on this list, you cannot be a specialist. You need all 4 pillars at once. A huge engine, the oxygen ceiling, a high threshold, so you can race right up against that ceiling for 2 hours. Brilliant economy, so every stride wastes as little energy as possible. And the secret one, a high rate of fat burning at race pace. That last one is what holds back the wall. Your muscles store only so much carbohydrate. We call it glycogen. Burn through it too fast, and you hit the wall. That horrifying moment where the tank reads empty, and your body forces you to slow down. And here's the truth I promised you at the very start of this video. That burning you feel? That is not lactic acid poisoning your muscles. We now know lactate isn't a waste product at all. It's one of your body's favorite fuels under hard effort. A molecule that shuttles energy between your muscles, your heart, and your brain, like an internal delivery service. For 100 years, we blamed lactate for our pain. It turns out it was helping us the whole time. But before you give all the credit to biology, there's an asterisk. Since 2016, carbon-plated super shoes have cut the energy cost of running by roughly 2 to 4%. And in a race won by seconds, that is everything. So the uncomfortable question hanging over that sub-2-hour marathon is this: How much of it was the human, and how much was the shoe? That question, human or technology, isn't going away. In May 2026, in a parking lot in Las Vegas, a competition called the Enhanced Games let athletes use the banned drugs the rest of the sport spends millions trying to stop. A swimmer broke a world record wearing a suit that was outlawed back in 2010 and pocketed a $1 million bonus for it. The sport's governing body called it a circus, built on shortcuts, and the doctors had a blunter warning. The drugs that boost your red blood cells or pack on muscle also thicken your blood and scar your heart. The bill for that kind of performance gets paid in years off your life. Which brings us back to the 5 bodies we just met. Kipyegon, fighting the air itself. Chebet, who turned thin air into a weapon. Vingegaard, the diesel that empties its own tank. Pogačar, who broke the calendar. And the sub-2-hour marathon, a prediction made in pencil, finally answered in flesh and blood. 5 completely different solutions to the same impossible problem. How far can a human engine be pushed before it breaks? We haven't found the ceiling yet. We've just found the people brave enough to keep reaching for it. I'm Sebastian, and this has been the Injury Breakdown. Now, if you think those 5 engines were strange, I've got one more for you. A man who, at nearly 37, should be in decline. Instead, Kilian Jornet is breaking records that should be physically impossible. Is he aging slower than the rest of us? Or did he find a loophole in human biology itself? From a near-fatal midnight on Everest to the brutal science of running downhill, we open up the most mysterious engine in endurance sport and reveal the one uncomfortable truth about his ageless body that almost nobody talks about. It's right there on the screen. Go watch it. And I'll see you in the next breakdown.